You can actually have lent and put that in the board. That's how close you were. Oh, fuck off. There you go. On you. Actually, I'm not that far.
It's the Friday show. Ooh, Graphfit friends.
Welcome back. This is episode 5. We've just been through episode numbers. Go on.
Why are you sat like that?
Because we've got this on me, like.
No, relax a little bit.
Right, you know what? I've got your chart on that now, so I can just put that there. I'm just a fucking tense guy, mate.
Just...
Welcome back to episode 5 of the Friday show. We've just been debating how many episodes, and we've actually ran out of team members now as well. So you've just got me and Callum today. Basically, we're sort of stripping this back to the OG days when it was just me and Cal, basically. So we're going to go through all things business. Obviously, we run 2 businesses now, so we'll probably go into a bit of a journey about how that looks. But we're essentially going to strip it back all the way to the early days of Graphfit, sort of how Cal started the company, how I come on board, and then basically all the journey from back in 2019 all the way through to today's date. So we're basically going to run you through the highs and the lows, what it's like running a business, obviously the good things and maybe the things that we've learned over the years. I'd like to say between the two of us, we've probably learned a lot of life lessons. We've had a lot of carryover in terms of personal life as well. So hopefully if you're watching this and you're running a business, then you might pick up some nuggets. If you're wondering from the outside what it's like to run a business, then we're either going to confirm that you want to run a business or we're going to scare you off it. So you'll probably be in one of 2 camps come the end of it. So,
and if you watch it, let us know which one.
Yeah,
which side you're on.
Let us know which camp, and if you do start a business in a few years' time and you started it based off stuff that you learned today, then let us know as well. We always start with a beer and a cheers, and closest to the bull. There was a couple of reruns on that because Cal threw his dart and blocked the camera.
So basically, just to fill you in, because we got it on camera actually.
Yeah.
So I threw my dart, but I was blocking the camera on the board, and it was a pretty poor shot, I'll be honest. And then we realised that I was blocking the camera, so I took another shot which was better, and I actually beat you on that one. But then you're convinced that you should have another shot, so you've had another shot and then beat me. Yeah. So realistically, it's like a 50-50.
We do things in equal.
So I reckon I give you a forfeit and you give me a
equal
forfeit.
Measure. Okay, we can do. We'll do beers first. You open yours.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. We'll just highlight that you're on the alcohol-free.
Alcohol-free. It's #ad. So yeah, basically, we'll probably review just recent, maybe month, 2 months within the business. So we'll go with highlights. What's been your biggest highlight over the past, let's say, month or 2?
Highlight for me is probably the My Brand side of things. So obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, we work, well, we've always had like a low ticket and a high ticket offer, haven't we?
Yeah.
So our flagship service has always been Studio Unlimited, which works hand in hand with people that have teams, which is usually a coach or a gym that's been around for a while because they built a team, they built the revenue, they got the capital to invest. But obviously, when we first started out years ago, we were working with, like, our ideal coach was somebody that was maybe PTing in Pure Gym, maybe be PTing in Pure Gym for a couple of years, and they were looking into like the online world, and obviously we can go into COVID and all that stuff, but and I kind of missed it a little bit. Yeah. The problems, I feel like the problems that we're solving for businesses to this day, every day, are quite big problems.
Yeah.
And it's high level stuff, and it's great, and it's really like the trajectory. Yeah, I'll get that one again. That we've been on in terms of like knowledge and what we've learned from business, and even our skill sets, so in tech and in creative and stuff, has been basically, it's had a kick up the arse because of the problem we're trying to solve. But there's a part of me that felt like I wanted to go back to the OG Graphfit.
Back to the roots.
Yeah, and I think the combination of both of them now, in working with coaches that are both starting the journey and coaches that, have multiple 6 figures, even 7 figures. It's quite a cool blend. So that's probably a highlight for me.
Yeah, I've got in my notes there about further on going on how the industry's changed. But I think with the Asset Academy people who have been on that, there was quite a few people who've been on that journey over the years. The demands of the industry's changed. So when we first launched Asset Academy, it was generally geared around like done for you assets, because that was essentially like the must-have thing. It was popular. People were starting to run lead generation, giving PDFs away. People wanted nicely designed things, and like if you had them, you were like a standout coach at that point. Even like infographics, like at the time, if you're posting infographics, people you like a wealth of knowledge, and you're like a source. But as I say, now that the times have changed, there's still obviously that demand for done for you assets, but it's not the sole purpose, and that's essentially where my brand's been born out of. We basically shifted with the demands of the industry. We've pretty much nailed the high option of Studio Unlimited and the way that's been remodeled over the years. But Asset Academy sort of done its job, but there was always like a bit of untapped potential with it, and I feel like now we've delved into it, and that's, again, we'll probably dig into, that's where you've been able to spend a lot of time on nurturing that over the past sort of 3 to 6 months, just purely through the journey of the business, and we'll obviously dig into that a little deeper. My one's probably an obscure one, but we do like reviews with the team every 6 months generally. Not like a performance review as such, we'll probably call it that, but it's essentially just our chance to sit down with the team and basically just have a chat individually to each person, like map out how the next 6 months look, and basically review how they found things over the 6 months prior. It's a very fast-paced environment. Anyone who's visited us and anyone who knows about the business, and obviously partners of team members, will know how fast-paced it is. It can be quite heavy at times and stressful, but the team, as I say, work at a stupid rate of both quality and volume. So it's always good to get the finger on the pulse and sit down individually, because we've got open office, we can chat, people can come and ask us questions and any sort of queries or any issues they've got. But there's something about doing those reviews and sitting down with people and actually digging into personal development and professional development and any issues that they've got, that I feel like it like brings it out, kind of like a semi-therapy session. So for me, it's always good just to sit down and reflect. And to be fair, the reviews this time it's been massively positive in terms of how people have developed within the team, within their own personal lives as well. So for me, that was my highlight, was just sitting down and listening. Once I actually spent a shitload of time writing comments, which like the more team members we had, the more of an absolute monster it becomes.
I think, like, just for my piece on that, I think with a lot of business owners, especially when you've got a team, I think a lot of business owners won't see reviews as a positive thing, like you just said. And I think because we don't run away from problems generally, do we? So if you look at at least the last 3 or 4 like big decisions we've made in the team, whether it's been bringing team members in, or reviewing the service, or reviewing like turnaround times, reviewing workload, capacity and stuff like that, a lot of the changes we've made have actually come from what the team suggested to us. So
pretty much.
Like I'll shout out Jay. Jay, or Smudger, we'll refer to him as Smudger. So we got Jay.
Smuggle, whatever.
But Jay, Smudger, he's led that, hasn't he? Really, he gives us a lot of feedback, and sometimes we have to then combine that feedback with, I guess, the everyday running the business, and to add more context to it. But in more often than not, the suggestions that Jay's come to us with and other team members has led to bringing Ryan in, bringing Sean in. And albeit, we see that journey moving forward, I think the reviews are so important. But get back to my point, I think a lot of business owners don't see that as a positive thing, because there's potentially a lot of miscommunication in the business. I think that's one thing that we're really strong at, is communication and just hitting the problem straight on, square in the face, because we get ahead of it. And then when it comes to doing things like reviews, there's nothing untapped. There's nothing that you're thinking.
That's why it's so positive, I think, because of the openness that we've got between that 6 month period. Like I allude to all the time when we sit down and have these reviews, that between now and the next review, which will be roughly February, March time, like I don't want you to sit on a problem for 6 months, and I also won't sit on a problem for 6 months. So if I've got a real issue with one of the team, I'm not going to sit here now and collate 6 months worth of data around that, if it's punctuality, sloppy work, turnaround, comms, whatever, and sit down and basically go, you've been shit at communicating for 6 months, because what is the point in that? We have tough conversations in between that review period. We sit down, and that's probably why they're so positive, because if there is an issue on both parties, we communicate it, we resolve it, and then the review comes, and it's essentially just an open conversation, which we bring goals out of. We get people to put targets down, personal, professional, whatever it is, and then we refer back in the 6 month period and go, have we achieved these goals? Why have we not achieved them? Is it something we've not done? Is it something you've not done? Or is it something that you've maybe put down at the time that isn't relevant anymore, or whatever it is? But say from a business standpoint, we have good chats with people, and we look at obviously like how they're dealing with workload and what they're struggling with, what they don't enjoy doing. We essentially want people to enjoy what they're doing, albeit there'll be days where you don't, but we want, take Joe and Jay, for example, we've done a lot of work over the past probably 2 review periods to basically get them doing exactly what they want to do and what they're good at, which is being creatives. So we've shifted things around the team, we've tried different things, we've amended the service to basically allow Joe and Jay to be creatives, and the journey's still on. With obviously I laugh with Jay in mind, because I said every time we solve a problem, it's like whack-a-mole, another one pops up. We're basically just progressing our way through problems, and the next problem we've sort of got a solution for anyway, which we'll obviously keep under wraps. But that's where, as I say, the reviews are great because it just helps us have an open conversation, and we learn stuff that we probably have an idea about, but kind of gives us the confirmation that that's probably the route that we should go down.
But do we need to keep it under wraps?
Probably not, no. But
we'll go into it a little bit. What Liam's referring to is, and this kind of feeds into the point we've previously just made about feedback and stuff, is we, in recruitment, and this applies to all businesses, not just agencies or our business. Yeah. I think and Ben behind the camera, by the way, you'll probably resonate with you a little bit as well. When you start recruiting people, you're always in a battle of, do you go for the most cost-effective option that then requires a lot of work on the back end in training and experience and stuff, or do you pay more money in the upfront and you get someone that's slightly more experienced but maybe comes with a little bit more baggage, which means you've got to sort of pull it apart and then get them into your way of thinking and stuff. And it's always a battle, and I don't think that'll ever go. That's always a battle of business. And I think what we've done so far is, obviously we took Sam on as an apprentice, but pretty much everyone else from there that we took on has come on for a specific need and has had experience. Joe and Jay in particular, because they were already in senior roles in the jobs that they were in beforehand, in big corporate structures. So then when we're sat here now and we're looking at problems off the back of, again, feedback from Jay and Joe, they've shared with us how teams have been structured in big corporate structures in the past when they've been a creative lead. Yeah. And then they've referred to having someone like an art worker, which is very common in an agency. That might be somebody that might be an apprentice, or maybe like somebody who's in university or something that's trying to get experience. They're not as experienced as a creative lead like a Jay and Joe. Yeah. They're obviously cheaper for us to employ. And they essentially are learning the craft. So they get the shitty jobs, basically. They get the little and often jobs that are like...
If you were keen on applying for the job before Cal just said it was a shit job, then...
Yeah, maybe not.
It's the demands of the creative, and it might be someone who's creatively minded who actually wants to progress towards being like a creative lead, or it might just be someone who's just got an appreciation for that sort of work. They're happy doing, we call them lower level creative tasks. They might not want to be a full creative lead, but they might just enjoy doing artwork-based tasks, which we generally look at like populating slide decks, ebooks, repurposing content and things like that, where, as I say, it's not the same demands as a creative lead, but it gets you in the industry and it gets you within that sort of around those people. Foot in the door, it gets you around those people.
I think one thing that's always been difficult for in this like space, in the creative space, like regardless of what capacity, is like a job title doesn't mean anything to other businesses. No. So we could put a job title out for a graphic designer, and somebody who is called or has the job title of a graphic designer that works for a different business could be doing something completely different. And there's like a real grey area between, the consistency of jobs. Yeah. So you've got to get your foot in the door, and you've got to almost like, you sort of earning your stripes a little bit. You've got to get in there and figure out, okay, well, the way I did it, for example, is straight into an apprenticeship. When I left school, I worked in an agency just down the road, a small agency, and they had a person for everything. So they had a web developer, they had a web designer, they had a marketer, they had someone who did SEO, they had a graphic designer, they had someone who did motion graphics, and these were all individual people. And there was one guy who he did SEO, he did marketing, he was quite creative, and he did design and development. And he was everyone knew he was the highest paid. Yeah. So like those little experiences of me being a young person, being able to be sat around a desk with people that specialize in certain things, you can start almost seeing it in front of you. Well, I could go down that route, or I could go down that route, and you start getting a real life picture for it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's summary of the last month. We'll probably delve deeper back now and go 5 and a bit years back, but maybe a bit longer. Depends if you look at like the official launch of Graphfit, and then you don't see the hours you were doing in the bedroom on your laptop, and then probably in Costa maybe. You're Starbucks man now, but maybe Costa.
Starbucks man, yeah. I think I drank too much Costa.
On the £1.99 unlimited refillable filter coffee.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go back to the start?
Yeah, we'll delve into the backstory of obviously starting Graphfit and sort of how it come about, maybe why it come about. I've put down what were the initial aims of the business, and you personally, what was the driving force behind making that change? And obviously you had a job at the time, and you were sort of, there was a battle between the two. What was the reason for actually doing it? Did you fall into it? Did you plan on doing it? What was your initial thoughts of when you first launched it? What was the end game? What was it?
So the way I've always and I kind of half knew this at the time, but obviously when you reflect back, you can tidy it up a little bit and go, oh, that probably meant that or whatever.
Yeah, you can tweet your story a little bit.
Yeah. So the way I look at it now is, obviously I had a lot of I'd worked for agencies anyway, so mainly in web, but then in marketing, in creative, graphic design, bits of video and stuff, and then obviously moved over. So my last job before starting Graphfit was I worked for a software company, like real sort of young, forward-thinking company, which a lot of the culture bits come from now.
Yeah.
So that was where the digital marketing came in, and then like they went overseas to America, and like it was just a lot of experience. But I was always doing stuff on the side. I know everyone says this, but I always had something going on the side, and it was always creating logos, building websites, and bits and bobs. Because one thing that I realised when I was, and this probably applies to, I think, coaches and personal trainers that are maybe working for someone else's gym and are thinking about stepping outside and do it themselves. At first I really wanted an in-house team, an in-house role. Yeah. So I wanted to be working on the same brand every day, so I could measure it and the brand growth. Whereas once I'd done that for a couple of years at the last company, I was like, I want to go back to building brands every day because I enjoyed the variety of it. So it was like finding that balance. Obviously, just to sort of like, cut the story in half a little bit. Obviously Dom, who we've known for years, who was obviously personal trainer, I think maybe at David Lloyd's initially. And then he went through the whole boot camp route, didn't he? So he started boot camps on the car parks. He then, this is fast forward a couple of years, but he then obviously was looking at his commercial unit to open a gym, an independent gym. And it just lined up naturally that he wanted a website and he wanted some branding. I did that for him, ended up going, looking at the gym on the day that they were like looking to, sign the lease on it, helped him with some signage, and that sort of like gave me my first step into the fitness world then. But at the time, fitness, nobody picked the niche of fitness. So if you're a graphic designer or a web designer or whatever, we have a lot of like fitness specific graphic designers now, fitness specific this and that. We'd never had that then. So I was sort of like stepped into this world where someone like a Dom at the time, or obviously we've got a couple of big commercial gyms, like Pure Gym was the biggest at the time. There's PTs in there that didn't even know where to look if they wanted a logo or something really simple. But then I also had the experience of knowing who the big agencies were in like London and Manchester and Leeds and all that stuff. And it was sort of looking at, is there a gap there to sort of blend the quality that you would get from like a city agency, but make it applicable to the fitness world and make them feel like somebody is there for them. Because there wasn't, and nobody knew where to go, and Canva weren't a thing at the time. So they really had nowhere to go. There was literally nothing. So that's kind of where we stepped into it. To be honest, like from a like client acquisition standpoint, Dom like sort of like led that. He just naturally is a good networker. So people were messaging him because his gym was standing out. People were messaging him. He was then saying, "Oh, it's Cal, one of my mates. He does this and that." That's when Amy Ormish came along, and like it kind of snowballed.
That was essentially the route. Obviously, I PT'd those out, and that was essentially the route of like, if you're looking at, let's say you were getting onboarded into being a PT at Transfit, it was essentially that you went to go and get a logo from Graphfit, and that was like
sold my starter
kind of buy-in. He didn't fucking pay for it though. But yeah, that was like the route that you went down. If you didn't have that, you were kind of like, well, you stick out like a sore thumb. Like in a
I think
sense.
At the time, like all the PTs, you could tell when there was a Transfit PT because on socials it was like they looked slick. Like even to this day, everything that you had in place back then of what like Dom was pushing with the gym, and then what I was pushing from like a design standpoint, even if you kept that to this day, which Transfer basically have, you would still be on top in terms of visuals then. So that's kind of that's kind of how it started really, and then it's the rest is history from there.
And that's, as I say, that obviously a few months down the line, obviously we worked closely together anyway, and probably some of the requests I was asking for were probably pretty obscure in comparison to the usual. This has got less calories in than this. I was very sort of obscure requests and stuff like that. Some of the titles of stuff that
we should dig some of them out. I remember, do you remember the rigs and blankets one?
Christmas challenge.
So just for context, we haven't really covered this, but obviously when I've known Liam for years anyway, knew him before he started PTing at Transfit, but he went from being a client to a PT at Transfit. Obviously I was around then anyway, doing the branding for Transfit. Then obviously Liam became a PT there, so then I naturally did his logo and all this stuff, which was probably 5-6 years ago, maybe something like that. So then we'd meet up then. So I had a monthly package with him now. So maybe couple of £100 a month or something.
It was less than that.
Yeah, just paid me in coffee. But,
pretty much.
And basically what we'd do is me and Liam would go on a monthly basis. We'd go and sit in Costa. Liam would have all these ideas written down, and then I would go away, create all his graphics for him, and then give it to him. It's basically what we do now, but
pretty
on
much,
steroids.
yeah.
So Liam came to me. He always had these wacky ideas, and it was like he always started with, "Oh, have you seen that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, it's kind of like that, but it's not really like that. It's like this."
Completely not like
that. Yeah.
So
There was this one idea that stands out, and he was coming up to Christmas, and you always did like campaigns, didn't you? It was always like an offer or something, and he called it Rigs in Blankets, and he basically wanted a pigs in blanket. It was basically a pigs in blanket, but the pigs in blanket was like a person, and it had a 6-pack.
Yeah.
And that was basically it.
It was wrapped in bacon.
It was wrapped in bacon, yeah. So I can't even remember. I've
got a WhatsApp. I think if I search rigs in blankets on my WhatsApp, there's literally a thing, and it's like a piece through of like what I want. It's like how many weeks, what you get, how much it is, and it says like they're wearing bacon, and that is like literally within that message.
But I can't remember. He came out all right because he used it.
Yeah, it came out right. Sold a few spots as well. So it's paid for itself.
Oh, tenner each.
Yeah.
Tenner a spot.
But then obviously via that route, then I'm obviously requesting content, speaking to Carl back and forth. Obviously me being in the industry and you being sort of semi in the industry. Obviously, but that's where I sort of come on board initially, wasn't it? Just via sort of just merging the two of obviously what's hot in the industry at the moment and how can we sort of merge this together, and essentially you being the creative aspect of it and me being the fitnessy aspect. If you were to split Graphfit in half, it's that's
what I've always said from the start, wasn't it? It was like Graphfit was always Graphfit. That's the name that I picked randomly at the start, but realistically until maybe 6 months in to Graphfit when we you came on board properly. It was Graphfit, but I was probably starting to see the gaps in my knowledge for the fitness industry. Yeah. Not in business, but what coaches do. Like I could package them up, but in terms of like the internals of what they do, the service, how they get results, simple things like it'd take me ages to research things around like information because I wanted to make sure everything was factual. I would take your information, I'd want to take it further, but I didn't know anything about it. So it is kind of where the graph and the fit came together. That's what we've always said.
The application of it essentially.
So so that was kind of it. Like when Graphfit really became really took the fitness niche seriously was probably when you came on board, because then you essentially had me that had all the background of the service-based stuff. So how to build a website, the creative, the some of the tech and all that stuff, the marketing. But then it was like, right, well, I know how to do all this stuff. I've got the strategy, right, Liam? What does this mean when a coach needs this and this? And they kind of blended it together.
Just merging it,
That's where it came from.
When it started out, what was the aim? What was the idea behind Graphfit? Was it to get it to this point that it is now, or was it a passion project? Was it I'm going to just give this a go? If it doesn't work, I don't really care. What was the general aim of it?
It was it changed weekly, to be honest. But I always remember when I went, I was living at home at the time, when I went home to my mum and Cots, and I said to them, I'm thinking of leaving Prima at the time because I want to start my own business and I was already doing it and stuff. They, to be honest, they didn't really understand it because the job that I had was a comfortable job.
Yeah, it's quite novel. I think generationally it is quite a novel thing to do, isn't it?
You're settled and you got a good salary and they'll look after you, and they did look after me, and I had a journey ahead. I had a bit of like a pipeline of where I was going in the company and stuff. And they didn't really understand it. And the one thing that I said to him is, this doesn't need to be huge. It doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. It just needs to give me enough money to be able to live and look after a family in the future. And that's exactly what I said to them. And I did kind of stick to that. But then obviously your mind runs away with you. And when you start getting that independence of running a business, you start seeing what's possible. And you start looking at especially the glitz and glam of the agency world. It's from the outset, running an agency or building an agency, or the idea of, I could run that agency in the future. It looks very glamorous because you have the nice office and you have like all these rules, like the no holidays, no limited holidays and all that stuff. And
holidays.
At the time as well, there was Stephen Bartlett was running his agency, the original Social Chain, the original agency, and it had like a slide in it. And so you're sort of getting all these ideas that mean absolutely, in the grand scheme of things, they mean fuck all to business, or whether how successful or whether you're going to be able to pay your bills because you've got a slide in the office. It actually turns out that these agency businesses are actually pretty low margin. And the reason why you have all the glitz and the glam and all the nice stuff is because the owners do it for fulfillment and to keep people happy, because they don't naturally have a lot of money. So I think that's when I started thinking, right, well, if I want to make this work and I want to build something that is actually going to serve me in the future financially and freedom-wise, I'm going to have to go big, because I'm going to have to go big to create the margin, to create the profit. And then the next week, I'd have a shit week. Like, as we talk about now, you'd have a shit week and shit is the fan, and like, I was relying on myself working probably 14, 16-hour days. So if there was a day where I wasn't well and all of a sudden your week was fucked, then you start going, I don't actually know if I want to build this big business.
Yeah.
But then I think it where it comes to that point is when really things started picking up, and we probably went on a journey then of maybe like 3 years where 50% of all the decisions were made for us, because we were both kind of pulled kicking and screaming in different directions.
We were just getting dragged with the business.
Just down to opportunities. Yeah. Opportunities were popping up left, right and centre. And we were just like, well, we're here now. So let's go for it.
Yeah, we got
and the other thing as well, which I think applies to people that might be listening to this, is I was 21. So I was like on the verge of moving. Me and Lucy had rented a house. We'd got Nala. And at the time, rent weren't that expensive. Bills weren't expensive. Nothing was really expensive. So I didn't need to earn a whole shitload of money, really. And I was like, if I don't do it now, every year that goes by from now, it's going to get harder, which is exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even imagine how difficult the decision would be now to maybe earning a good salary like I was at a secure job, with all the rates and the cost of living now. I know this is a bit of a different subject, but all the rates and the cost of living now, to then go, I've got a mortgage and I've maybe got kids on the way and stuff, I'm going to go and start a business now.
Yeah.
That's a completely different decision than what I made when I was 21.
100%. Like you say, we've essentially just trended with the business, and at the time it was like you say, you essentially just follow what the business is doing. If we've got opportunities, we take them. If we don't know how to do it, we learn as we go, and we eventually do it. But like you say, now there's obviously a lot more to consider, and there's probably a lot more pressure to go all in on it. I think that's probably where, in a similar route, but obviously slightly different. Obviously, I come on board part-time, and I was part-time for longer than I've been full-time for. I've been full-time for just over 2 years, and you essentially were trying to get me to go full-time probably since day one, pretty much. And at the time, obviously, I was in with Graphfit. Obviously, I had my PTing business. I also had a full-time job that was pretty good pay, good pay salary. That
was always the issue for us, because I wanted you to be full-time from the start. Because just, again, for anyone that doesn't know, Liam doesn't just obviously work at Graphfit. He's a director of the business. He owns a percentage of the business. And I wanted to make sure that was in from the start, because all the content that I was consuming from all the people that I was looking up to, all the business leaders, the general message at the time, and still is now, is a problem halved, or problem shared is a problem halved. And I knew that like this is going to get tough one way or another. And I wanted someone to share it with. I wanted someone that had knowledge that I didn't have, to be able to come against these problems in this new business that we were building that had essentially never been done before, in an industry that didn't know they needed it. And there was going to be a lot of problems on the way, and I think that's where the opportunity came. But obviously, going back to the point, you were very well paid. Obviously, you're not going to say how much you're getting, but you were very well paid. And that was always a problem, because as we were growing the business, I would have loved to say in the early stages, right, Liam, you come full-time here, but the business, firstly, couldn't afford to pay what you were getting paid. And you're obviously older than me, I mentioned that as well. So you were like a couple of years ahead of decisions and house and stuff like that, so you had responsibilities. But also the business didn't demand your skills full-time. Your skills was everything that I weren't good at, which was operations, being able to manage a team. We didn't have a team. We didn't really have operations. Everything was in my head. So it was about getting to a point where that made sense, which ended up being 3 years in?
I'd say, but it kind of naturally come about. Obviously, I got offered a redundancy at the job that I worked at. The site shut down. We were basically getting laid off, and that was kind of the window of like, if you're going to do it, you do it now, essentially, because we discussed it, and I was pretty much going to do it anyway and leave. And then I was like, to be fair, I'd have probably still been stood there with me notice, sort of like, ooh, do I want to do it? As I say, commitment, stability. But as I say, it naturally happened that I finished me job on the Friday and was full-time at Graphfit on the Monday.
And by the way, just to say as well, at that point, you took a fairly hefty pay cut. To start full-time at Graphfit as well. And that was like the commitment, isn't it?
Just get in and get it sorted. And as I say, the 2-year journey has been, I remember like the first few weeks that I was there, and I was like, I remember saying to you, I was like, it's hard, this, isn't it? And like, because we were sort of like passing ships a little bit, weren't we? Where we'd sort of pick up where the other left off, and we'd comms, but I wouldn't really be in the office. I'd pop in for a few hours and stuff. And there was a lot of things that you had to deal with on your own and look after on your own that I probably didn't have much awareness of at the time, or didn't have the exposure to go, this is a battle, this, isn't it? And as I say, after that first few weeks, I was like, fucking hell.
There was a time, we've had many drunken come together on the corner of the. Because by the way, as well, me and Liam live about 40 yards away from each other.
Unfortunately.
I live in the nice bit, he lives in the rough bit. There's a corner on the estate, and that's where we get dropped off in the taxi. We've had a skinful, don't we?
Yeah.
There's been a couple of embraces on that corner, and then I remember there was one time, and because I didn't really know anything from your angle at the time, probably a couple of years ago. Well, last year it would have been. I remember we had a little hug, and you went, "You've been doing this for years," and I was like, I've been doing this for years, because we were going through a tough time at that point where we were like, me and you were like at 150%. We were trying to fix problems for the team. The team were at over 100%, and it was tough. And then you start going, fucking hell, like this like no mean feat. Like this is going to be difficult. And then you come out the other side, don't you?
Yeah. So that's probably where we look at like the highs and lows. Obviously, I put a story on and spoke about the sort of like you do trend with the business, and it's very easy to become emotionally like turbulent, isn't it? And like if you're a business owner, you'll sort of understand this feeling that you really do try and detach from trending within business, and you still get those things of when you had a really good day, maybe you've made a lot of money, or you've got a client win, or you've had some feedback, or you've had some really nice comments, and you feel really good about it. In the same breath, you have a client kick off, you have a shit month, clients leave, you churn, you have arguments with people within the team, or your disagreements, and you feel like shit. And it's really heavily advised that you detach from those situations, but when you're in the situations, it's very tough to do. So, as I say, that's where the highs and lows do sort of take you on a journey a little bit. I do think we're probably at a point now where we do detach a little bit more. We have sort of become, I wouldn't say numb to it, but we've become quite wise to situations that, like, I had a good conversation with Fiona, with the other business, Amplify Media, and we have a meeting every week, and we've had like a really good period of like client acquisition, client results, feedback. Is essentially a lot of happy people and very, very minimal issues. And I said, like, we're not naive to think that this is what it's going to be. Like, there's going to be, essentially, the higher you go up, the further you've probably got to drop down. So if like you're on this big hill at the moment, like, don't be naive to think you're always going to be there. And that obviously sounds really negative and sort of like sadistic in a way, and you're sort of like, you're just setting yourself up for a negative fall. But you've essentially just got to be very like careful that you don't become naive to think that it's always going to be a certain way. And then in the same sense, you have those shit times, it's not always going to last, it's not always going to be like that, and you've essentially then got to dig your way out of that situation and pull yourself back in. I think just
like I guess we could have talked about the start with the highlights, but I think what if I was to summarise anything that I feel like we've moved forward on this year, I feel like us as individual like people and business owners, and then the business as a whole, have just been through a whole maturity stage.
Yeah, 100%.
And like you're never going to stop learning. I think we'll be learning until the day we die, probably. And there'll be things that we will do wrong, and we do things wrong every day, I'm sure, and things that we'll do right and whatever. But I think we both are at the same stage now this year where we feel like we've got something more to Google Sheet wizard and tech specialist, and me building websites and being creative. We've got more to our like toolbox now than just them skill sets. I think the wisdom, and don't get me wrong, like I'm 27, you're 31, 30. We've been in business for 5 years. Like, come on, like we're babies in the grand scheme of things. But the amount of wisdom you collect in that time, and the amount of experience and essentially data that you collect that then help you make better decisions, has been massive. And I feel like it's just starting to come together now. Again, going back to what you just said then, them times from what we've known, when things start feeling like they're coming together, all of a sudden something pulls it apart.
Yeah, it's like you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room sort of thing. So if you're sat there going, I'm so wise, I've learned a lot, I'm fucking brilliant, like you're essentially just going to sit there. Your potential was doing that, and you've gone, actually, I'm brilliant, mate. And then the industry moves, people move, your colleagues move, team members move, and you're essentially just sat in this thing of like, I'm on this pedestal, I'm really good at everything, and you're no longer good at everything anymore. Like everything's moved, you need to catch up, sort of thing. So I do think it's, as I say, it's exposure to situations that get you to that point, but there's more situations on the way, and they're probably worse than the situation you've just been through, and that's just natural. But I do think from an interpersonal standpoint, like you said, obviously we've got the skill set that lends itself to like tech or web or whatever it is, like the actual doing the do stuff. But I do think probably over the past, but I'd say 2 years since it's been full time, but probably over the last 6 to 12 months, I do think the interpersonal skills is what's sort of like carried me through situations and having tough conversations, advising people on things. And we've always sort of spoke about like, you do tend to play yourself down in a situation. So someone will come to you for advice and you think, why are you fucking asking me about this? And I do think, as I say, you do dumb yourself down to a level where you feel kind of like embarrassed or a bit humble about going, oh yeah, you should do X, Y, Z. But I do feel like we're getting to a point now where we do think, well, we've actually got some reps in the bank now where we can advise on that. But again, like you said, you sort of don't die on that hill of going, I'm so wise, like come to me for advice.
Well, I feel like we since probably the past 2 years as well, we probably surrounded ourselves with like specific individuals that are light years ahead of us. Both in business, financial freedom,
life,
family freedom, life,
skills,
wisdom, like everything, every area, every corner of your life, they're ahead.
Yeah.
So it makes you more comfortable to advise on specific problems. Like, for example, if the team come to us and want to deal with, what a personal problem or a business problem, you feel comfortable doing that because you know that you still you're putting the work in to understand more.
Yeah.
So as long as you're striving to understand more, you feel comfortable offering the advice. Whereas I feel like if you were trying to offer advice and you were sort of like faking it till you make it, and you were just pulling these quotes off the internet because that was the only place you got wisdom from, and you had nobody else that was doing better than you essentially, then you start feeling a bit like a fraud and stuff.
100%.
I think that's probably an important part.
Pretty much been through that bit. As I say, a lot of it's just around the journey of obviously when it started out, 1-man band, 2-man band, and then obviously with the team and stuff. Now, what do you think has been the biggest challenge in that time, of whether that's struggling with yourself, struggling with something within the business, the team? What's been the biggest battle, do you think?
Having a shit accountant.
Yeah, that's what I was about.
Having a shit accountant. I've said this one before, I'm going to repeat it just for the sake of context, but you've heard this before, but probably Ben has as well. There's like 3 or 4 individuals that I've always looked up to when I started business. It was Ben Francis. Tommy Mallet was one, which I still look up to now because he's going through some shit and I like that. Stephen Bartlett, Gary Vaynerchuk, and a few others. And I remember watching a video from Ben Francis on YouTube, and it was I think it was something like top 5 pieces of advice if you're going to start a business. And I was watching, I was thinking, oh come on, he's going to make me a millionaire if I watch this. And his biggest piece of advice was to get a good accountant. And I remember being sat there and I was thinking,
clickbait.
Fucking shit advice that. Tell me how to build Gymshark, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
But in reality,
tell me how to make money. Don't teach me about money.
Yeah. When in reality you learn, I think, when you because when you're starting a business, obviously you've got different tax pressures and stuff, and we smashed through that threshold very, very quickly, which confused a lot of things, and all of a sudden there's so much stuff that happens at once and everyone's like, oh fuck. But at the time I was like, I want to build something like Gymshark. And then looking back now, I was looking for advice to make money, but in reality, what he was giving was advice to protect your money.
About money. Yeah.
And it's not all about making money. It's about protecting it. It's about saving it. It's about spending it. It's about making it. It's everything. And so the biggest thing for me there is get a good accountant. But at the same time, I think the biggest advice or the biggest lesson that I've learned is all around identity. I think I've been deep down, without probably many people knowing, I've probably been through a bit of an identity crisis for the past 2 years, where is that where you got a mullet? All the young lads started getting mullets. All the young lads started getting mullets. I got a mullet, and the next day they both came in with skin.
Yeah, skinheads have gone now.
So I think identity was that I've always been caught between 2 rocks, and one of them being Callum, the rugby player from Widnes that loves a pint and is one of the lads and has his certain vision of what he wants. And then there was Graphfit Callum.
Callum Graphfit.
Yeah, Callum Graphfit, yeah. I've been called that a few times. And I was stuck between these 2 identities because I was so young when we started the business. I was almost living. It wasn't 2 lives, but it was like
you're getting pulled between the identities. You're trying to satisfy both of them.
Well, I'm trying to guilt plays into it, where I'm working all these hours and stuff, and obviously me and Lucy had already been together for a long time then anyway. And I was like, there's a bit of guilt there, so I was like, I was in the office and I was like, Callum Graphfit, and I was like, everything was Graphfit, I would die for this business. And then I was going home and I was like, I'm back to previous Callum that I've been for 21 years, and I never really knew what it meant to understand which way I was going. So basically, just to cut a long story short, I'm not boy with it. But what I've come to realise over the past 2 years is I needed to find what I wanted to take and what I wanted to get rid of both of them. So Callum, who had then become 25-year-old Callum, what was it that he had that served him well and served other people well? And then Graphfit Callum, what was it that he was really good at and something that is going to serve him well in the future? And blending them two together. So I realised in the end that I didn't need to try and be one or the other. I didn't need to switch them. I needed to become, whatever would serve me right for the vision moving forward. And that was essentially pretty much down the middle. It was exactly taking the stuff from Callum and taking stuff from Graphfit Callum and merging them together. And then since I've become more happy and aligned with knowing that actually the majority of Graphfit Callum was actually the Callum that I was, and it was driving me forward, I've become more content and happier. So that's the lesson for me. It's just understanding that if you are unsure on identity, especially if you're younger in a business, don't rush trying to figure out who that is. I think over time, like, these things just build, and then you start being known and labelled for certain things.
Yeah, I think that's like sort of a crossover point. You see this thing all the time, don't you, about having like the 5 people you surround yourself with that they influence you the most, and look at the 5 people you have conversation with the most. These are the people. If they're not the right people, get rid of them. You need these people. And I sort of get the concept. It's like a really nice ideology thing within business, but I think, like you said there, about having like Callum, lads, Callum, and then businessman Callum, that you don't need everyone around you to be one of those people. Yeah. So you don't need to, if you're a business owner, you don't need to speak to 5 business owners every day. If you're a lads, you don't need to speak to 5 lads. I have certain conversations with certain people that are no way any stretch business related. Like, I speak to some of the lads they ask me, oh, how's work going? Yeah, sound. Like, crack on. Some people ask me, oh, how's business? And I'll go into fucking team, all sorts, KPIs, money, whatever it is. But you don't need those people to be all of those things. So, like, say I get the concept similar to like you saying with like identity battle. That sort of thing will give you an identity battle, because if you're striving to be Callum, family man, loves his mates, out for a pint, rugby, but all you're speaking to every day is CEOs, business owners, fucking ops managers, people like that, you like, it's pulling you towards this identity that you're essentially like wrestling with. You don't want to be that person. So it probably crosses over into your point about you don't need everyone around you to be one of those people. You essentially just, you speak to people about certain things, you speak to other people about certain things, and you have a circle of people around you that you can utilize and leverage and speak to and confide in for different elements of your life.
I think just to apply it to, I guess, people that will be watching and listening to this, I think a scenario where this might make more sense is, let's say you are maybe between the ages of like 18 and 23, and you have your friends, whether you're male or female, you have your friends group that probably at that time, you went to school with, maybe friends you came at college or whatever, and you've all come together, and you become self-employed, which has its turbulences and struggles and challenges and its greatness. Yeah. And you start learning skills and listening to other people and looking for advice that your friends aren't. Yeah. So you automatically, you start thinking, I'm different. And to a certain extent, like that, I guess you are, because you're in a different place of life. Yeah. But the one thing that I did that I wish I never was, I cut a lot of people out through natural causes, really, nothing too like big, but going through the age of like 22, 23, when I was like in the first couple of years of business, I pretty much isolated myself away. I stopped playing rugby, didn't have any rugby lads. I left the company that I worked for before, so I didn't have work people. I've always been attached to work people, never had them. And looking back now, I was probably quite isolated. And then in recent years, we started playing rugby together again. A lot of my friends that I went to school with and played rugby with we're now playing together. There's also people like Joey T, who I met at the company before, and it's all the identity thing that I mentioned before. I can literally see it forming in the shape of people. People that I've like almost like collected over the years in different scenarios have all come together, and now like we was on a trip. Well, a trip, it was a piss up. A rugby tour a couple of weeks ago in Amsterdam, or in Holland, and it was literally a mix of all these people that I've met over the years. And you start realising exactly your point you just made. You start realising what you get. And sometimes you've got to think of it selfishly. It's what I get from each individual person.
Because people get stuff from you as well. So it's just like a transactional thing. It's not transactional, your friends and stuff like that. But there is elements that people will want you for. Like, you'll speak to one of the lads about rugby, piss up, whatever, and they'll probably go to you and go, oh, what do you do within like X, Y, Z within the business? And yeah, we'll have a conversation about it. It's like people will use you for different things. But like you said, I think if you're looking to isolate yourself from certain people because of certain things, I mean, that's a you problem. That's not a them problem. That's because you're trying to satisfy all these things, and you're essentially like, say, if you're 5 WhatsApp people is someone you go on the piss with, someone you talk to about rugby, someone you confide in when you've got issues with your missus, someone you can speak to about business, and someone else. Like it can be a blend of those people. It doesn't really mean you've got to have 5 business owners, or you've got to have 5 knobheads who you go on the piss with. If you have to isolate yourself from those people, it means that you've got a you problem, that you can't blend your personality traits.
Which was exactly skills. I think you've done pretty well at it. I think you've
but I've sort of battled with that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you have, but I don't like. I've also indirectly benefited from the people that you've stayed connected with over the years. I'm sure you've become less connected all the time, like since school and stuff. But like the friend groups that you have are the friend groups that I isolated myself away from when I was probably 21, 22. And now I go out with your mates that you've been friends with for years. You come out with, and it's a really cool scenario.
100%. We'll round it off. We did do a little Q&A before. There's some questions that definitely won't be getting read out because we'll get probably shut down. Or we'll get grievances from the team because there's certain questions that
you deal with that, not me.
Put us in very hot water. Yeah, that's my problem. That's why we're not doing them. We'll dig out a few questions. I'll pick one for you, and you can pick one for me.
All right.
We'll do that. We've probably answered quite a lot of them. Right, we'll go with this one actually, because Jay Smith's after this one. It's really good.
Shag, marry, kill.
No, that's the one that we're not doing. If you could change one thing about each other, what is it and why? This could be from a professional sense, or it can be personal, or maybe a crossover of the two.
If I could change one thing about you, your awkwardness.
Yeah, very social.
You're such an awkward person.
Can I run through my little gym thing this morning? Like, I got to the gym this morning and it opens at 5, so I get there about 20 past me because I'm hoping someone gets there first.
By the way, who the fuck goes to the gym at that time?
Well, evidently no one, because I had to open the gate this morning and there's 2 padlocks on it and it says ring this number if you want to open the gate, and I'm thinking, my man's in bed here, I don't want to ring him. And I was genuinely like, I would just get back in my car here and drive away, or sit in my car around the corner, wait for someone to come and unlock the gate. So I'm there only for the fact that I'd gone with one of the lads. I was like, well, we'll just do the padlocks, like fucking around. Walked in the gym, couldn't find the light switch. Fucking took us a while to find that. Did that. Music comes on, so we put a tablet on. There's like a speaker system. Comes on. It's the fucking max volume. It's the loudest room I've ever been in my life. Couldn't turn it down. It's like, fuck it, we just have to live in it. But if that was me and I was on my own, so only for the fact Bonehead was there, I'd have either not gone in the gym at all and wait for someone to get in.
just thinking about how it sounds natural for us to say Bonehead. Bonehead's been Bonehead since I was 8 or something. But Bonehead.
Yeah, only for the fact that he was there, I would have either turned around or I'd have gone in the gym, and if it did get the lights on and I knew the speakers were that loud, I would have just turned the music off and put my headphones in and trained in silence until someone come in, and that's how socially awkward I am.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, so like it makes, and I'm going to tie it to business, so we'll get semi-serious for a minute, and then I'll go back to another story that I'm going to share about it. It makes it difficult. I've not always been like this, but I have less patience than I have had in the past.
Yeah.
Not versus you, but versus me years ago.
Yeah.
So when I get frustrated about something, or something needs to be dealt with, I'm like almost like rushing to get it done, but I'm
probably deal with it too quick.
Yeah. And there's a balance of the two, but I can look at Liam now, because I've known him for that long and we're with each other too long every day. I can look at Liam square in the eyes and I know what he wants to say and he won't say it. And we're almost like looking at each other over the screen going, go on, say it. Fucking say it. Say it. Say it.
I'm getting better at that.
Yeah. So that's why when we did the other week, when we did the 5 lessons, 5 years in business, and one of yours was have the difficult conversations earlier, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's socially awkward. But just to finish with a story, because we've got serious a little bit, just to finish with a story. So we go over to Belfast a lot, as a lot of people know, take the piss out with Florida, which is business related.
Yeah.
We have a few Guinness while we're there. And basically, so Liam takes charge of everything, right? So when we go away, he books the flights, he checks me in, he's got all my passport details. I walk behind him, basically. I'm like a kid. I walk, we go, we have a pint, he goes to buy, gets the pints, blah, blah, whatever. So we had an Airbnb and he has the code for the Airbnb. So we've been out on the piss, haven't we? We had a few pints and that. And his phone goes, like, he's literally had his phone on charge behind him now. So his
14%.
phone goes dead multiple times a day. But all the details were on his phone and not on mine.
That's
so
like
we could
pin code.
Yeah, so we couldn't get in the Airbnb, and it was like 11 o'clock or something. Like we were like up early next day. So we get to the Airbnb and his phone's dead. So we're like, we can't get in the Airbnb. So we're like, right, we need to go and charge the phone. Find a little boozer, nice little boozer. So he goes to the bar and he's trying to get a charger for his phone. We don't want another drink. We didn't want another drink for once. And he goes up to the bar and
but we eventually said we'll have to buy a drink.
We'll have to buy a drink to use the charger.
You said, get me a gin and tonic.
Yeah, I went, get me a gin and tonic, right? And he was like, he was going to get in a Guinness. So when I sat down, I was watching him because I knew he was going to fuck it up. Yeah. So I was watching him and I seen him lip read.
The plan was a gin and tonic, a Guinness, and charge me phone, please.
And what came out was 2 Guinness. Have you got a charger? No. Okay, no worries. And took the 2 Guinness and came and sat down. So then at this point, it's now 11:30.
No closer to getting.
We're no closer. We've got a pint that we don't want, kind of. No charger. We still can't get in the Airbnb. We're fucked. So actually, by the time, so you still stood up, weren't you? And I was looking at him, I was thinking, and this is an example of what I've just said. So I was looking at him, thinking, he's going to come and sit down now with these pints, and we still can't. So I went, and we went to a shop earlier on, didn't we? So I literally, while he was still at the bar, I just like waved on my way out. I fucking pegged it, I speed walked to the shop round the corner, paid 30 quid for the charger, came back round. He hadn't even started his pint and we got off. And that is an example of how you're awkward.
Socially awkward.
Yeah. But it was the thing. I wish I could have took a picture at the time, because it was what got to me was your face and how okay you was with her saying that she didn't have a charger.
The answer was irrelevant at that point. I knew how awkward it was going to be anyway. And the ideal scenario was no drinks and a charger. Middle tier was actually getting the drinks that people wanted and charging me phone. And the absolute bottom was coming away with drinks that we didn't want and not charging me phone. And as soon as I knew it was happening, I knew it, but I just couldn't stop it. It's too late. Too socially awkward.
So that was it. Socially awkward.
So that's the thing you change.
That's the thing I'd change, yeah.
Cool. Mine's probably pretty simple.
Go on.
Just fucking reply to your messages. the absolute worst communicator I've ever met in my life.
No, right, no.
Sorry, I thought it was mine.
Let's break it down. Right. You can't say I'm the worst communicator, because that's like a pretty big brush that you're tarring me with.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I'm very good at communicating in certain scenarios.
Yeah.
I'm in some scenarios of communication, I'm much better than you.
Yeah.
But as a general, rule of thumb, I'm the bad communicator and you're the good communicator, right? So realistically, what it comes down to is, if I don't reply to your messages, you're not giving me enough value. So I don't see in that moment when I receive that message. If I see it, I might not always see it. If I don't reply to that message, there's not enough in it for me to reply.
What about if it's a question?
Well, I'm probably already in the middle
to me.
Yeah, but you want an answer immediately.
Yeah, that's how it works.
I'm already in the middle of something.
Well, I don't know about that. So that's what I changed about you: communication speed.
Okay. Do you think I've got better at
it? Yeah, ish.
Cool.
Let's do one more question.
Well, can I pick one?
Yeah, definitely something you couldn't.
What you worried about? What I'm going to read out?
It's the JLP one. He knows what question it is as well.
What's your biggest fear in regards to running a business?
Ooh, probably. It's actually probably one of the benefits of running a business is your ability to mold people and to basically change people's lives. So that's probably one of the biggest benefits of it, but it's also probably one of the things that keeps me up at night. Thinking about money, whether the team are happy, whether someone's going to hand the notice in tomorrow, like that, those sorts of things. So I think mine is that generally, obviously, you look after the team and the team look after the business, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest fear of mine, is that you're responsible for a lot of people. It's like a blessing, because you've essentially got the ability to, you can go against the norm. I'd like to say we go against the norm when it comes to business. We're not corporate. We'll do sporadic things with the business. We're really close with the lads and Fiona. We'll reward people sporadically. It's not, we don't do things on this is how it is, black and white basis. We are quite sporadic with it. So you've essentially got the ability to make someone's day, to make life easier for people. We're dead fluid with, if you come and you need to work from home, you've got childcare things. If you've got a problem, we'll send flowers for someone if there's been
you're actually, I can't actually, I'll never take credit for any of that, because you're actually really good at that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not very good at that.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I care, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're pretty good with like the
Yeah,
gifts and stuff.
I'd say you've got the ability to do good things for people. You can make people's day. You can make life easier for people. But you've got a lot on your shoulders in doing that. You've got the benefits of it, but you've got to take the cons of it. That essentially you're gonna have probably some sleepless nights over. You're looking after people's families. You've got people who've got mortgages. They've got kids. They've got outgoings. You don't know what finance situation some people are in. Like, we pay people on time. Like, we don't have any issues like that. But you've got a lot on your shoulders. As I say, you've got the ability to be able to change people's lives, make people happy, make life easy for people. That big thing for me at the moment is that you can like do things for people and you can make life easy for people. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned over the past probably year. And the ability to do that is a blessing, and it's a pleasure to do it, but you've also got to take the burden of it, that you've got a lot on your shoulders.
Liability.
So that's probably my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Like, I always know we'll make it business-wise. Like, we'll always do it. If we need to graft, we can do. We've done enough graft over the years that we know if we need
there's one thing we're very confident
dig ourselves out of the shit, we'll do it. But the biggest thing is that you've got people relying upon you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I like it, and I also like it scares shit on me.
It's one of there's many things that you can summarise in business as when it's good, it's good, when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah.
And that's
100%.
what it is. Mine would be
Is it me?
no. And it's the fear of always adding probably anything, to be honest, like a personal identity thing that I transferred over, but probably the fear of being average.
Yeah.
And I don't like, it's a difficult one because I don't want that to come across as like like a toxic topic, because that's quite like, it could be like hustle porn in it. Like, it's a bit like, ooh, you've always got to be better than average. You don't.
Yeah,
but
it's like the most LinkedIn thing I've ever heard of me.
yeah, it is. Big quote.
Yeah.
It says Stephen underneath it. But my fear is that however this thing ends in years to come, or different things that we achieve over the years, is I want to always be confident that in pretty much anything that we do, we're better than average, and whoever we're doing things for and whoever we're communicating with, that they know that that's come from somewhere that isn't just up here in your brain.
Yeah.
There's passion behind it, and I think if you can combine all that, you should always be content in knowing that we are better than average. We are not average at anything that we do. We strive to be the best, or as good as possible at everything we do, whether it's service related, communication, relationships, growing the business, making money, going home and being good with our families and stuff. So that's it. Fear of being average.
That's probably more a regret thing, isn't it? Over the years, you look back and you go like, oh, I could have done more there, and I didn't. Like, that's the kind of thing. There'll be certain things.
Baggage,
there'll be certain things that you're not invested in. That's probably where you get to a crossroads and you think, actually, I don't even actually care about that.
Yeah.
Relationship, friendship, whatever. I don't need that anymore. And that's a crossroads that you might get to. But I think it's looking back and going, could have salvaged that situation. Should have said this. Should have done that. And in a business sense, I'd say we won't look back. You don't want to look back and go, could have done better there, could have done that, could have done this. And that's probably one of your biggest regrets, is because you're not going to get a redo of it.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah. How long are we on?
Hour a bit.
Just over. Actually, do one more.
Yeah, go on. Can I pick one?
You alright with that? Yeah. Do one more.
Should we let Ben pick one?
Yeah, go on then.
I'll pick one. You'll know the one not to pick, I'd say.
That's an example of how awkward you are.
Well, yeah, but the shirt's setting it, so.
There's a couple that you'll know not to say. Please don't say it.
It was
That's how you know it's time for bed.
That's
how you know it's time for bed, and that light goes off.
If Sam was there waving his mic, that would never have gone off.
Top 3 things you look for when hiring a new person to the team.
Can I start?
Yeah,
go on.
No, go on.
I think so. Like the thing I'm excited about when we get a new member start, like a new team member starting.
Probably from the hiring process, from the interview, what you're looking for in the interview.
Probably how they speak about probably themselves and like the passion they have behind how they speak. So like if you get someone who comes in, like the whole hiring thing has like changed a lot, hasn't it? Like CV is kind of a bit obsolete now. I think like the skills you can kind of train people in, they've got to have a certain element of skill towards the role. But we just look for personal skills pretty much off the bat. So I think it's how they speak about themselves and how passionate they are of being there. Like actually wanting to be in the interview is probably a massive one as well. People are nervous, obviously you get that, but I think for me it's just the way they speak about themselves and like how passionate they are about what they're talking about. If it's very like transactional and like sounds fucking AI generated, like I'm a great team player and how do you deal with conflict? Well, it depends. I don't like violence, but I also would.
I'm a non-smoker and I can play in a team.
It's so shit. So it literally, I'd rather someone come in and just be like completely like divisive and like so far away from the norm, but they're just really 100% and passionate. So that's probably, I'd say that's what I look for. As I say, the skill stuff you can train people in. If someone's a cunt or the boring or the set in the ways, you just cannot train that out of people, particularly the older you get as well. So for me, skills second, person first.
Mine would be, because I think you just covered about 5, mine would be integration.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I've learned, and particularly with, and I'll say it how it is, particularly with Sean, since we took Sean on, because I always said with like building the team that we were very lucky from like me being the first employee, let's say, to like employee number 8 or 7, where everyone was like not of like similar circles, but everyone was like of the same vibe.
There was like a mutual.
Yeah, there was something that was like people hit off straight away. And I always said, and we spoke about this, there's going to come a time where just from the way numbers work, sheer numbers game, that we can't keep taking people on and finding people that just fit in because they don't exist.
Yeah, or it's like they know such and such, or they used to PT with him and we know him, and everyone's sort of like.
So that's where I stopped thinking about like basically the term of fitting in and more integration, and the reason why I said Sean is because Sean, when he came in for his interview, obviously it was for a web role, so naturally, and I'm background in web, we know basically with web, the weirder you are, probably the better you are at doing your job. It's quite a techie thing, it's a nerdy thing, so that doesn't generally match the other people in the office, pretty much the creatives and things. But the reason why I go back to integration is because the qualities that he did bring, and then the way the lads then got around him, and Fiona got around him and brought him into the company, and now he probably over the past maybe 2 or 3 months has like really stepped into his own and brought his own personality. That's when you're more looking at integration rather than someone fitting in. Fitting in is when everyone's the same, like your group of mates that you
yeah.
Integration is taking the different quirks of different people and making it work in a group scenario.
Fitting in's like school playground shit, and like if you don't fit in, you kind of
the same rugby team, and you drink the same beer, and like
you don't get in. But
and Sean pretty much defied every similarity that we had.
Yeah, but we had that in Sean. He won't mind me saying it. One of his targets for next time is to be less introverted and sort of get in it, and he's done a lot to do that as well. And obviously that you only give away as much as you sort of want to give away, but Sean now compared to Sean when he started is a lot more integrated within the team, purely based off as I say, he's I wouldn't even say he's just fitted in with the team. The team is essentially opened up to this whole new persona and atmosphere and stuff like that, and it's good.
And Sean's one example. Like there's different examples.
Yeah, everyone's weird in there.
I feel like that was just an example because it's just a bit of a mindset shift. But yeah, I'd say that's probably the main thing for me.
Yeah, it's me.
Finish that one.
I said about 5 or 6. So if you've made it this far, obviously thanks for sticking in. Hopefully, as I say, we try not to go on a tangent, and we know that there's probably personal aspects that some of the audience won't relate to, conversations we have and whatnot, but hopefully there's some sort of elements of that you can take away, whether you're a business owner, if you're not a business owner as well. Things around interpersonability, maybe not a word.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
That'll like, you have to landscape the camera for that to get the caption on. Hopefully there's some relatable stuff there, whether you're a business owner or not. We sort of, I'd say we're opening up more to letting people into what it's like. I always try not to be really negative when people ask me about what running a business is like, because I feel like I have like tendencies, depending on what mood I'm in, to absolutely shell being a business owner. But we're just keen to relay the realities out, aren't we?
Overall, I know we're doing a bit of an outro here, but overall, I think that we're the same. So if anybody speaks to us, we'd like to relay the realities, because there's so much more information and content out there that shows all the great sides of business, and probably not enough of what it actually takes. And a lot of the content we do, a lot of the podcasts we do, a lot of the content we're doing now is bringing in the reality of especially high achieving clients that we've got to show other clients that are aspiring to be like that what it's actually like to do that, and is that actually what you want to do?
Yeah.
But as a whole, we absolutely love it. The reason why you said there about we tend to go off on tangents, we go off on tangents because we live and breathe this stuff. This is our thing.
I think that the thing with, especially with the Friday show, even the pod stuff and everything we do now, generally, I don't know whether it's a maturity thing or whether you're just that, I don't know, like sapped of mental social energy that you essentially you're just real and you just speak exactly how you feel, and then it's really easy to do on a frequent basis because you feel the same generally, rather than coming on here and talking about business, getting off camera and going fuck here now, like and divvying out into this other person. I think we just sort of speak from the heart, and as I say, we generally attract the people that we want to attract via doing that. So that's generally the game.
Bang on.
We'll try and hire before the next Friday show, and we'll get some new team members in. Might have an art worker in next time.
I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna blow a bit of smoke up your ass.
Yes.
This was the first.
Been waiting an hour.
Well, to be honest, not even the first Friday show. The first piece of content that you took lead on, because I usually lead everything. And I think you've done a better job than me. I think you've done very well, and it's been great being just being sat here chilling. So maybe this is your show from now on.
Maybe the Liam show.
We'll see what the views are like.
Yeah, we'll see.
If the views are good.
If it absolutely bombs, then.
But I'm in charge of the thumbnail and the title, so I might just give you a shit one. So the views.
It's a shit job. You're the art worker.
Yeah.
We'll end on that.
All right, bang on.